What's up, y'all? I hope you had a great week. As you guys know, I've been in games for quite a while, animating for games, loving it. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the development of animation throughout a game and the 3 stages that animation normally goes through. It's really interesting to me, and normally it takes years for a game to be developed from beginning to end, and it's very interesting to see animations develop and then be finalized for the final game. If you want to know more about it, stay tuned. It's coming next. Before I actually get through the video, please remember to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't so far, and leave a comment down below. It's really appreciated to make sure that the YouTube algorithm actually shows some love to this channel, because it's much needed, and I would highly appreciate if you guys can do that if you like the video through the end. Having said all that, let's get started with this video. So games development is incredibly interesting because normally it takes years and years for a game to be developed and shipped. The bigger the game, the more time it takes for the game to be developed, to actually be published, right? So a AAA game like The Last of Us takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years to develop, and an indie game that is published by an independent publisher like Raw Fury normally takes anywhere between 2 to 3 to maybe 5 years, but it normally takes 2 to 3 years max to actually get to that level. But obviously the teams are smaller when you're actually working in an indie game, and also the ambition of the game needs to be smaller in order to be able to be shipped within time. AAA games have a massive amount of people, and therefore it takes a lot of work to actually get the machine moving and get to the end goal. Now, animation specific is very interesting, because what happens in animation is that normally when you start in a studio, so I've been through this motion quite a few times, when you start in a studio that doesn't have a lot of people, or the project is just getting started, you normally have 1 or 2 animators, and normally people don't really pay a lot of attention to animations because they are very raw, so there's nothing there. This actually goes into the first stage of animation in games, and this is what I like to call broken animations and animation systems. Right in the beginning, because the game is being developed, is being designed, there's a lot of ideas being thrown out. What if the character does this? What if the character does that? Wouldn't it be cool this? Wouldn't it be cool that? To the point that some games actually have characters T-posing, walking around, and just to make sure that we actually get something in the level that actually looks kind of decent. But then animators come through, and then they start adding their animations to game. You start throwing a lot of ideas into the game to see what sticks. A lot of systems don't work, a lot of systems work. Some animations look okay, some animations look really rubbish. And really, at that point, no one really cares for animation, because everyone kind of takes into account, because everyone thinks that at this point, everything is basically raw and unintentional, and it hasn't been finished. And you can clearly tell when you play the game that obviously this is not going to be the animations in the end. Now, I want to highlight something here very important that happens in development, that in animation, unfortunately, there's no way for you to tell your fellow developers in the studio that something is blocked out, because animation is so specific and is very much what the animator or the animations, that when something is moving, people automatically see it as moving good or bad. There's no in between. There's no way for you to tell people that this is a temporary asset and therefore take it easy. This is not finished, we're gonna make it better in the future. It's a very difficult thing to actually say to others that animations haven't been finished yet, and this is why. I spend most of my time doing that. Throughout my career, I've spent most of my time doing that, to actually clarify to people, this is not finished, because we still need to do some work, and we are months away from finishing this. This is just block out, this is just temporary assets. It's very difficult to explain that, because people just see things moving and automatically they want to say, this is wrong or this is right? So that is the first stage. Being broken, animation is broken, no one cares except for the animators, and then you as a lead or director, you start setting out like the plan of like, okay, we need to actually work on this works, this doesn't, we'll experiment with these things here, mocap some stuff, hand key some stuff, whatever you need to do, you just do it right in the beginning, because this is pre-production. So this is the bit that you get to have fun. It's the first bit. No one is on your toes. No one is on top of you asking you to make things better. You're just having fun. See what sticks and what not. Now let's talk about the middle stage, when things start to come together. So this stage, the second stage, happens just at the tail end of pre-production when things are starting to gather speed in a game. So things are pretty much like not set in stone, but they're much more defined in the game, and people starting to know exactly what the game needs to be. So for the animation department, in the second stage of animation, what happens is that things are starting to look good. But once again, so this second stage is the most difficult bit, because it's a bit where animations are not really rubbish or like, you know, just not good enough like the first stage, not really finalized. This bit is like the bit in between. And what happens in this section is that only the animation department normally has the vision to know that the game is going to be a certain quality right at the end, but no one else does. All of the departments around, they just look at your animations, they look at the work that you have done, and they automatically assume this is going to look good or this is going to look bad. So remember what I said previously about there is no blockouts in animations. There's no way for you to kind of signal to other departments that this is temporary assets. Well, in this second stage, it becomes even more important and even more of a problem, because what happens is that other departments will actually look at the work that the animation department is doing and be like, this doesn't work, this works, can you please make more of this, less of that, all of that stuff. All of the information is incredibly useful, and what I've learned through the years is that it's better to kind of just leave people to kind of like criticize on the work that is done, and then know that as an animation department you have the final goal in mind, so you know exactly what you need to do. You kind of develop a little bit of callous towards people being critical of animation, because although their feedback is super useful, you know what you actually want to do as an animator in the end, and you know that the assets are not good, they're intermediate, they are working but not really final. At this stage, everyone is an expert of animation. Everyone actually has a saying about if the animations are good or bad. You know, like for example, when you watch Polar Express or a movie like Tintin or something like that, because they tried so hard to actually make it super realistic, when things don't look quite right, the public itself, anyone, can actually go, that walk cycle, that expression is not quite right, because you can automatically connect it with reality, and that is not what a human would do. So if it's a realistic game, you can definitely tell that's not right, and if it's a cartoony game, for example, you can tell that things are not pushed enough. So that's basically the trade-off that you have to go. But in this stage, you kind of just have to hunker down, know you have a plan, and kind of like do it. Now let's talk about the final stage, which is the most fun, which is polish. Now, in this final stage, obviously, as you can tell from stage 1 and stage 2, this is the bit that you get to have fun and you get to show off how much your animations are going to be amazing in this game. Because at this point, things start to come together. And this is incredibly satisfying, because all the animations that have been there temporarily for a while, and they were like temporary assets or animations that didn't quite work or whatever, towards the end of the game, so this is actually year 4, 5, 6, 7, if you're actually working on a AAA game, towards the end of the game, things just come together beautifully. So all the animations start to look polished, they start to look even, and there's no like, some animations look good and some animations look really horrible. There's none of that. Everything just starts to look even, things start to even out. And then with luck, people can start seeing that vision that the animation department had is coming together to make sure that it looks as good as possible. So that is basically the payoff, right? If everything work well. There is also, and I've been in projects that way, of the opposite. So towards the end of the project, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of time to polish, and you're racing towards the end goal, just trying to kind of fix the things that don't quite work, and then you just ship the game as you can, or as it is, because you don't have any more time. That is always the downside of games, because sometimes you're running so much that you don't get to do everything you wanted. It happens, unfortunately, it's a reality, and then you have to live with it. So just for everyone that wants to get into games, just know that. So that is stage number 3 of animation. A lot of polish, a lot of love, finalizing the game, and then shipping it. For all those that actually want to get into games, for all animators that want to get into gameplay animation, know that, fingers crossed, you're actually going to get into a project as your first project that is really well managed, and you're going to get to the end and you're going to get to polish your animations and making sure that everything looks as good as possible. Unfortunately, know that there's a lot of projects out there and companies out there that unfortunately, because of either lack of time, lack of money, there's a plethora of different reasons why things don't work out. Sometimes you actually get stuck on like stage number 2. And then when you get stuck on that stage and you still have to ship a game, all of a sudden it's like a matter of like racing towards the goal and just like fixing the big things and putting the game out there. This is why a lot of games that sometimes people expect great things in terms of animation, sometimes they don't look as good as possible. This is not because people didn't have big ambitions right at the beginning. It's normally to do with the fact that they ran out of time to actually make all of the things happen that they had in mind in order to ship the game. Either because, you know, management was not so good, or maybe there was too much in the game and you couldn't make it all in, or there was no budget to actually make it all in. There are a lot of reasons for these things to happen. When those things happen and you are in the industry, for all new animators out there that wanted to get into games, it's a little bit heartbreaking because you always know deep inside of you that the game could have been better. Every project that I've been and that I actually experienced that, I always thought there was so much potential here and this is the end result. And it feels almost like you missed the trick because it could have been amazing. So that's basically what I wanted to say with this video. The 3 stages of animation in games development. Hopefully you get to start in a project from early on so you can see the whole thing, the whole development cycle, play through for years, you know. Takes a lot of resilience, a lot of hard work, but then when you ship the game, you feel like you and your team are like family, like brothers, because you've been through a lot for years. It feels amazing. So I hope you guys enjoy the content. As always, don't forget to actually press the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and drop a comment and let me know what you think about this video, about the content, about these stages of animation, and most importantly, if you want to be a gameplay animator, how determined are you? And what do you think about a game being developed for so long? Do you think you could actually make it? Do you think it's going to be difficult for you? Do you think it's going to be fun? Let me know your thoughts so we can actually have a conversation. I like to reply to all my comments. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. As always, stay well, stay safe. Peace.